The EP Podcast. Heard everywhere podcasts can be found, and always at theeppodcast.com.
Sitting down here at the 9-foot homemade oak bar. This is an annual thing now. She comes down, she visits me. It's been great every year having Dr. Jenna Woodland. She is the superintendent of District 124. That is all of your grammar schools and central middle school, sitting down here and talking with us. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me today.
I like having you in every year because I know that people start gearing up for school, although I always feel like guilty bringing it up while it's still summer. Like, I have 2 kids right now that are preparing to jump in the pool in the backyard. It's right at the top of my mind. Like, it's summer for them, but you guys are full swing getting ready for the school year. Do you ever feel like cringy when you hit like the button to send the email out to all the parents like it's time to go back?
Yeah, no, sometimes, absolutely. But we definitely have parents reaching out about packet pickup, and they're ready for the back to school bash, as always.
Yes, when is that? I'm coming to that.
It is August 24th,
Okay.
which is our first day of student attendance. So that's actually a half day of student attendance. And then the back to school bash will be that evening from 5:30 to 7 p.m.
Okay, I remember from previous years there was a thing with foam. Is there foam this year?
Of course there's foam. It's always one of my favorite things. But we definitely have some other events planned, and we're always looking for sponsors. And this also goes to great things to support our kids. We're planning for actually a coat drive with our students this upcoming fall into winter to support students who might need new coats, things of that nature. So we're really looking to give back to our community.
Actually, you mentioned sponsors. This episode of the EP Podcast and every episode that we do brought to you by the First National Bank of Evergreen Park. When you're setting the kids up for school, don't forget that one of the most important things is a student checking account from the First National Bank of Evergreen Park. A debit card of their own and unlimited free in-network ATMs. A very easy-to-use mobile banking app for teens and young adults. This way you can keep track of their money and send it to them whatever school they're at. Remember the standard checking account, the statement savings, $300 bonus if you open up that checking account, $200 with the savings account, the ATMs, free wherever you go, and there's no overdraft charges. There's a reason why my company, my personal accounts, my kids' personal accounts are all in that iconic building at 95th and Pulaski. Get in there today. The First National Bank of Evergreen Park, member FDIC. Ahead on this show, we will unveil the entire bracket for the Battle of Evergreen Park, and the Smiley Tillmon Band is hitting Evergreen Park this weekend. We're going to talk to the band before they get here. Dr. Jenna Woodland, the superintendent of District 124, down here now. I ask this every year, but I'm going to ask you for people that haven't heard it. You don't have to be a kid to go to Back to School Bash. It's a community event, right? And there's going to be food out there, a little bit of music, some fun for the kids, things like that.
Yes, anybody is welcome. In fact, we always have the mayor that comes. The Evergreen Park Police Department makes an appearance. Our fire department makes an appearance. It's just a great event for families to come out and collaborate with one another and just have a great time.
That's great. And EP Podcast will be out there as well. If somebody wants to donate, be a part of, sponsor, whatever, how do they reach you?
They can reach me directly via email at jwoodland@d124.org, or they can contact the D124 Foundation, which is also located on our website.
All right, so now let's get into something that you brought up to me that I find really interesting. You hired an architect.
Yes.
Like, normally, I would think you're hiring teachers. You hired an architect. Why did you do that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So absolutely, we're looking to support the facilities needs of our school district as always, and just making sure that we're providing the most responsive education to our students, which includes updating our facilities. And I've had some parents really recently ask me about our mobiles and assessing space. And so really it is a long-term project to ensure that we're providing, again, the most up-to-date facilities for our students. And I really look forward to community feedback. It's definitely on the docket to ensure that we receive feedback from our community and our students on what they want in their learning environment as well.
Because you have a lot of buildings. Like, I always think about that. Like, you're spread out all throughout the EP. We always talk about this too on the show, and I know we probably brought it up you and I, when we're talking on the show, the idea that you have these 4 quadrants and they're almost like they're all mini neighborhoods within Evergreen.
They are mini neighborhoods.
They have their own personalities, which means every school has its own distinct personality, and they all have space. So I find it interesting that you looked around, you're like, we have a lot of space, but are we using it right? And
are we using it right, and are we using it properly to support kids? And that's the most important thing that we need to ask ourselves. And it's definitely long-term planning as well. And we want to make sure we're projecting out into the future and making sure that we have plans aligned to our budget and that we're making sound financial decisions.
Well, you didn't have to hire any principals this year, right? So that's why you were able to get the architect?
I didn't. It was like the most beautiful thing. I didn't have to hire any principals. I have all 5 of my principals returning next year, and I'm thrilled to have that in place.
It's good for consistency, I would think.
It's great for consistency.
So I remember your new principal over at Central.
Yes, Dr. Z.
Yes, came and sat down here. We had a nice conversation. And I know that that's one of the schools that, like, at the time, I don't know if I've seen it as much now, but at the time, there was a lot of stuff you'd see in Facebook pages and people making comments about the school. And it almost seemed like it was, I don't want to call it biggest problem, but I want to say it was probably the thing that was at the top of your list. Like, we have to change a little bit of the culture at the school and we have to do our best job there. So how did the first year go with Dr. Z?
Dr. Z did an absolutely wonderful job connecting with our community, and I'm super proud of the work that he has in store. And most recently, we just finished a school improvement planning process with some of our teachers to really ensure that we're working on student social and emotional needs, especially at a middle school level. We're also working on adopting some new ELA curriculums for our students, which is absolutely essential. And then we are moving forward with some very targeted professional development for our staff as well.
How often do you get to interact with the parents and stuff like that? Because you have individual principals and you have so many different schools. Do you rely on the principals to kind of come to you and say, like, this is something that we're working on or this is what we need? Or is it something where you still from time to time are at something and somebody comes up to you and it's like direct parent to the superintendent type stuff?
Well, I would like to say that I'm really accessible. I think that's something that's really important to me, that if parents have feedback, that I want to be able to sit down with them and really share their story and their perspective, because that's how I believe we learn and get better. And most recently, about a year ago, we did conduct our strategic plan, and we have had ongoing committees that have really funneled through that work, which is important. Obviously, the principals interact the most with parents, and I definitely have ongoing meetings with them, and then my district office staff as well.
So I want to say that last year, one of the things we were talking about, this just kind of hit me as we're talking here. I get a little deja vu because you come down, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember what we were talking about. So last year, one of the things we were talking about is that there was, that a lot of kids were kind of behind. That because of the stuff I don't want to talk about ever again on this podcast, but during that era when, schools weren't open and the masking was happening, all these things that were happening, right?
Right.
And we see all these studies socially behind, in terms of just their grades or their education level, a little bit behind there. There was all these different areas they were lagging. And I know that was something that was a focus for you. Another year removed. Are you seeing a turnaround? Because I have teenagers. I've gotten to see it at 3 different levels, okay? And I see a turnaround. I see a bigger turnaround now than I would have imagined I would have had a year ago when it felt like everybody was still reeling from it.
Absolutely. And I think it comes down to, everything we do in a school system is about a process and making sure that we get feedback from stakeholders. And we really relied on our teachers to establish what they were seeing with our students. And we did actually increase some staff to make sure that students were getting the needs met that they were demonstrating. That includes adding a behavior specialist to support with social and emotional learning and some additional district case managers under our student support services department, which we found to be essential at this time just to ensure that we're heading down the right track to support student needs.
You've been doing this now for a couple of years.
I'm going into year 3. I love my job. I have to say that much.
That's what I want to ask you right there. Because I'm asking you a question. You're like, all right, everybody's listening to this. So I got to make sure I give the clear, concise answer because I'm going to get judged. I mean, think about it. You're a superintendent of a school district that covers this entire town. And this podcast, it's about 3,500 households out of 7,000 a month.
That's
so
awesome.
I mean, you're sitting there going, well, I better answer this because if I say something a little bit different than what I really mean, somebody's going to call me on it. Because that's kind of job you have. You have a public job with a lot of people that there's going to be people that are thinking you're doing a good job, and there's always going to be somebody that's got an opinion, and that's going to happen. So I get that, but that's what I kind of wanted to get to is like, are you comfortable, relaxed, having a good time doing it?
Yes, I have to say I'm so fortunate. Evergreen Park is probably the best fit for me. It is just such a great community, and we actually have a theme. It's called EP Family in the district, and that's what I love about it the most. It's just such a family feel, and when I walk into work, I feel just as supported as the support I try to give to my employees in return, and everyone has just been so welcoming to me, and I cannot be more thankful.
And you got the high school here, and it seems like you guys work really close with each other in terms of that transition when they finally move into the other district.
Yes, we do. And we actually increased some opportunities for Project Tree, in which our 8th grade students who qualify for Project Tree actually go over to the high school for mathematics, which was not previously in place as well.
I think anytime that you get a younger kid and he or she gets to go into the high school and start to feel like what it's going to be like, that's a positive experience.
Yeah, it's exposure for sure.
Yeah, because trust me, when you walk in there, I think all of us remember it. All adults know it.
Yeah.
You walk in, you're like, wow, there are people here that look like adults because they're 18 and they're huge, and I'm still like a kid. That's always, so I think that when you're able to build that bridge, that's great.
Yes, it's wonderful.
Awesome. Well, Dr. Jenna Woodland, again, when is the big fest, the back to school bash?
It is August 24th from 5:30 to 7 p.m. We look to have everyone out, and everyone is welcome.
All right. I'll be there. I'm looking forward to it. I might even jump into the phone this year.
Oh, okay, great. You have fun with that.
Building relationships, supporting the community, and service. These are the things that Country Financial stands for. They're more than just an office you may pass by as you drive through Evergreen Park. They're neighbors who lend a helping hand and support the fabric of your community, including charitable organizations, sports, financial education, and civic organizations. And since Country is already your neighbor, they want to get together and chat. Call your local Country Financial representative, Mike Thauer, today at 708-425-1559 to talk about the things that are important to you and how he can help you protect them.
Hey, where's Hannah?
She is not here.
Why not?
Sitting down here at the 9-Foot Homemade Oak Bar with Bill and Mike from Southside Pod.
Crossover episode.
It is. Just a segment. A segment.
The multiverse.
Just a segment with you guys. Because for months I've been planning the unveiling of the seated bracket for the Battle of Evergreen Park.
I know. We've been listening.
And Hannah didn't show this week because she's got a new boyfriend.
Oh.
And a kid that
Sorry,
the boyfriend
fellas.
has.
Dropped,
and they
Sorry,
do all
fellas.
kinds of like outings together, and she disappeared on me this
Don't
week.
worry. When he
happens.
leaves her, she'll be back.
Yeah.
She'll be back. She'll be
Anyway,
back.
Anybody
We're
here, though.
Listen, this podcast has been around for 5 years. We've seen Hannah leave and come back and leave and come back. She'll be back next week.
We have wives, so we know how things are.
You
so
know how
that's
this
why
works.
we're here.
Yeah.
Right. So Bill and Mike do Southside Pod. Subscribe to that. It goes all over the South Side. It's the EP podcast in a little way because it features restaurants and bars and breweries and things going around, but it's outside of Evergreen, around the south suburbs, in the near Evergreen Park, south side part of the city of Chicago.
EP adjacent.
Yes. And it's a lot of fun. I will tell you this, the EP podcast, according to our research, is about 80% female listeners.
Oh.
Southside Pod is like 50-50.
In that case, what's up?
Hello, ladies.
Evening, ladies.
I'm just kidding. I'm married.
All right.
But what's up?
All right. So it is now time for the Battle of Evergreen Park's bracketed seeds to be unveiled. Next week.
Yeah, woo!
Next week, the voting will begin.
Okay.
And we're going to blow through this in a couple of weeks.
Tonight
we're
we're
gonna
just
get this
sowing
down.
the seeds.
It's all we are. Sowing the
Love.
seeds of love is what we're doing here.
All right, let's do
Okay,
it.
like Tears for Fears once said. Now, the reason these guys are here and why it's perfect for them to be helping me out in this segment, we did a Battle of the South Side on Southside Pod with neighborhoods and villages in the suburbs and everything like that, going head to head.
Got a little heated.
And it got heated.
And we didn't plan it for months either. It was like 4 minutes on a napkin for Bill.
Yeah, but it worked.
And
Yeah.
Joliet was in there, which was ridiculous. And you missed out on several places. Like Crestwood didn't make it, but Joliet
But the
did.
important thing is that you learned from my mistakes, and now the EP pod is doing it better.
No, but here's what's funny. My social media manager, Faith, who went to Evergreen Park Community High School, okay, now is older, runs an entire business doing social media all around the country for people.
Okay.
She told me that the biggest things that happen on social media, the way that we trended on Southside Pie was when we aggravated people.
Yes.
Every time Bill opens his mouth.
When we put people in that shouldn't have been in the tournament.
Yeah.
And when we snubbed people.
Yeah,
And
I
when
understand
people
that.
were eliminated way too early. And so the grid has been set up to aggravate people a little bit.
Okay.
Sounds like what we do.
Although I think I've come up with some really great contests in the first and second round that I expect to have happen.
All right.
What do we got?
So we're going to unveil these right now. Here we go.
What is
And
this a battle of, by the way? I don't think you even explained
they're
this.
all restaurants, bars, places that you entertain yourself at.
All
ice
going
cream
against one
shops,
another?
bakeries. Yes.
So we got a bakery versus a restaurant, and then versus
You can
an ice
have
cream
that.
shop. Oh,
You
wow.
can have that at some point.
Okay.
At some
I'd
point.
love to hear this.
All right. So here
all
we go.
EP.
So here we go. We'll start with the top of the bracket. The number 1 seed
Yes.
in the Battle of Evergreen Park is going to be Baracos.
Makes
Very
sense.
good
Solid
number 1
pick.
seed. Yeah.
Evergreen
Solid
Park
pick.
is the home of Baracos, which
a
is
staple.
spread out
Yep.
amongst the rest of the South Side. It is probably the biggest restaurant in Evergreen. And
Bands
then
are everywhere, you know?
You can go and drink at 7 in the morning.
Yes, I used to do
With
that when I worked
nurses.
midnights. I used to work midnights, and I would be in there drinking with nurses.
Yes.
I would drop my kids off and go drink with the nurses.
Nice.
That's what I would do. Okay.
And firemen for the 80% of listeners.
Oh
that are
yeah, I
women.
was totally talking to the firemen in there. The number 1 seed will go up against the 16 seed,
Oh, no.
and the 16 seed will be determined by a play-in game.
Oh, what do we got?
Rainbow Cone, which is not an evergreen.
But like,
This
might
is a
as
little
well
bit
be.
of a thing.
Okay,
It's right on the border.
okay.
Versus our snub. All this week, people have been voting to try to figure out which place was snubbed because we'd already said
Yeah.
who was in it. We had left one out.
Okay.
With 63% of the vote beating out the rest of the competitors in our snub poll.
What do we got?
Wolf's Bakery will take on Rainbow Cone.
Wonderful
Solid.
bakery. Wait,
Solid.
Wolves versus
Rainbow Cone.
That's
yeah.
a tough plan.
Donuts versus ice cream.
That's a tough plan.
Right away. In
Wow.
the 16 seed, the winner takes on Baracos.
Get out of here.
Right
Man,
away.
That's a crazy game.
We're on fire. We're right out of the gate.
What do we got, Nice? You're just going to disappoint me from this point
Yeah.
on.
The 2 seed, Rosangela's Pizza.
Very good pizza.
I mean, like
And-
my
and
favorite place
notice
in the world.
bracket, the 1 and the 2
Yeah,
seed are
makes
both
sense.
the
The
pizza
heavy
places.
hitters.
Yeah.
They could
Heavy
literally
hitters.
meet each other in the finals, and everything else could be for nothing.
Yes.
We'll play the other play-in game, which is the 2 breweries that are just on the outskirts of Evergreen Park, because we don't have a brewery.
What?
EP
course.
does not have one brewery?
We do not.
Sounds like an untapped market.
I know.
How about
that was
an EP
good. I like
podcast
that.
brewery?
That was a play on
Untapped
words.
market. You
Untapped
got it?
market.
Yeah, that
Thanks,
was good.
Chris.
We have Open Outcry
Okay.
versus
They do a
Horse
lot of
Thief,
EP stuff.
Yeah.
versus Horse Thief Hollow.
I mean,
Oh,
they're
okay,
they're
that's-
right there. They're,
that's a battle in
That's
and of
neighbors
itself.
again.
Yeah, they're
got-
friends too. So this is gonna be
You're going to
delicious.
make a lot of people mad.
Oh
with
no, no,
this.
they're going to be mad at me for putting them against each other.
Yeah,
anyway.
You're
for
a
sure.
genius,
Yeah,
Faith.
yeah, exactly. Okay, so that's the beginning. Now, no other playing games. The
All right.
number 3 seed will take on the number 14 seed. It will be Chai Tung
Yes.
as a 3
yeah.
seed.
Wait, please tell me it's versus Wu House.
No, not yet. Actually, Wu's House did not make it.
What?
They did not even win the snubs.
Wow.
The Golden Griddle will
Chai
be
Tung
the
versus the
14th seed.
Golden Griddle.
So we got the
That's
only
an easy
and that
matchup for
Golden
the
Griddle
for
is
Chai
the
Tung
only
there.
breakfast place.
Lo mein versus pancakes.
There you go. The number 4 seed Porter Cullens
Very good.
Cole's
Yes.
neighborhood bar,
will
yeah.
take on the number 13 seed in Wojo's.
Oh, you get a good
Wojo's.
elk burger over there.
Yeah.
Oh, really good elk burger.
Bison.
But now here's the fun thing. The 4
Right
and
down
the
the street
5
from
the
each other
4 and the
again?
5 seeds in a bracket of 16 if they both win face each other.
Oh, yeah.
The 4 seed is Porter Cullens. The 5 seed is Tavern in the Green. Tavern in the Green will go up against another place owned by the same owners.
Come on.
The number 12 seed Pappy's will take on Tavern in the Green.
How is it? I mean, he's got a horse in the same race here? What's
Yeah.
going on here?
He's got 2 restaurants. The Pappases will have 2 in the Battle of
Wow.
Evergreen Park. The 5 seed will be Tavern in the Green, and the 12 seed will be Pappy's.
Which child do you root for?
I want you to think about this. If Porter Cullens and Tavern in the Green, the 2 higher seeds, win, you'll get Porter Cullens versus Tavern in the Green in the second round.
Yeah.
If the 2 lower seeds upset, you could have Wojo's versus Pappy's,
Whoa, yeah.
which are very similar as well.
Absolutely.
Yes. I put a lot of thought into this thing.
I
All right,
see
here we
that,
go.
Chris.
Almost too much.
The 6th seed, probably too much. The 6th seed in the Battle of
Number
Evergreen
6.
Park will be TT's,
TT.
which is the Vietnamese restaurant with the martini bar.
THI.
Yes. Okay, everybody calls it Thethys, but her actual name is TT.
Yeah.
She's told me that before.
Vietnamese fusion.
She will be taking on the number 11 seed, which is Cravings, another ice cream shop.
Yes. Formerly Baskin Robbins, I believe.
Yep.
Yes. Same owners. They just left Baskin Robbins and started.
Sometimes you got to leave the,
They've been on the show before.
Start all over with that.
All
right. Now, here's another note. If TTs and Chai Tung advance, they will face each other in the next round. Yeah, I planned this out, baby.
Wow.
So
I think we know who's going to win those two first round matches.
Here we go.
Just an Asian battle of
that's exactly what it would be. That's what it would be. Okay, the next seed, the number 7 seed, is the American Legion Bar.
Okay.
Which will face Spoken Vine, a 10 seed. They are the only two that are current advertisers on the EP podcast. We placed them against each other.
Come on, you can't do that.
No, we put them against each other.
Are you stupid?
We were like, you know
You're
what?
Gonna lose
Who wants to pay more next month?
I am going to lose one of them. One of them will lose. One is brand new, which is Spoken Vine.
You're committing to the bet here.
American Legion is the other one.
Wow.
Yeah. That'll be an interesting
One has an
match.
eternal flame.
And now here's one that I think.
Like the Bengals.
Here's one that I think will be the most interesting, and this is the last one, the 8-9 matchup.
It was always a good 8-9 matchup.
Joliet versus...
It kind of feels like it could be Joliet versus. Here we go. Heart's Saloon.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Old school.
Versus Durbin's of Evergreen Park.
Oh, wow.
They're the 8-9s going against each other. Think about that.
There's going to be some angry people who
Durbin's has got to win.
I don't know. Hearts
has been around forever. Durbin used to be like that cigarette shop or something, right?
When you listen to who's involved, because you guys are hearing this for the first time, who stuck out to you right away like this one's going deep and could win? Was there one that just kind of jumped out at you?
I was very surprised that I mean,
did I misseed something?
I think that the fact that you put Rainbow Cone in there and they're not from EP, Rainbow Cone is huge.
Yeah, but can Rainbow Cone get by Baracos?
I don't know. It depends on who's voting, right? It depends on your age group of voting. Do we have like some non-drinkers? Do we have?
So generally, the EP podcast brings in women from 25 to 54. That's probably the largest amount.
That's like Baracos demographic.
I think Baracos wins because of that.
Yeah.
I would think in the voting. That's what happens. I mean, there's a whole week for these groups to start talking a little bit of crap, start saying we should win, start sticking up for themselves, and start saying hey, get ready when the voting starts next week. Okay.
Do Bill and I get to vote now too?
Everybody gets to vote. The voting will be on.
Everybody can vote.
The voting will be on.
Want?
Well, yes. Well, it depends. How many social media accounts can you make?
How do we vote?
So there'll be an Instagram vote. So if you have an Instagram account, you can do that. There'll be a Twitter vote. So if you have a Twitter account, you can vote there. And there'll be a Facebook vote that will be an online survey link where you have to give a valid email address.
Okay.
And then
can I
you get
just
to vote.
use your email address? That's what I generally do.
Don't do that.
Do you want to make a prediction as a host and who's going to take this whole thing?
You want me to think?
I'm just asking. You don't have to.
Okay, here's what I think.
Bill and
is
I
want to
make predictions.
I think the two pizza places take each other on in the end. I really believe in the
Can
1 and
that
2
happen?
seed.
That can
I
happen,
made them the
right?
1 and the 2
That
seed.
can happen?
Yeah, I made them the 1 and the 2 seed because I thought they were the two strongest things. And you know what's interesting about this? Rosangela's taking on the two breweries. Both brewery owners like to go to Rosangela's. And the folks at Rosangela's have commented that they like the two
People
breweries.
love pizza.
These people all like each other in that group, in that 2 and 15 thing. They all get along with each other. So it'll be interesting to see who ends up coming out of that group.
Interesting to see who stabs the other in the back.
Here's the thing that I'm wondering. Will a non-Evergreen Park entity
That's what I'm afraid of.
make it to the Elite Eight?
That's
Can
what I'm afraid
Rainbow Cone get by? Can one of the breweries get by?
Rainbow Cone's
into
like
the Elite
famous. You know, they're like beyond EP famous.
Open Outcry does so many things for Evergreen Park. They're always at Evergreen Park fests and organizations, things like that. So they have a presence in Evergreen Park.
Both of them.
So I think that they have a good chance.
And
Horse Thief does too,
Both
yeah.
Horse Thief and Open Outcry are now on tap in a lot of Evergreen Park places, and their beers are on shelves and binnies, and these are prominent breweries. But the thing is, they got to go head to head. I wasn't going to leave them out. What if both of them advance to the Elite Eight?
Right.
That's what I was like. They have to go against each other, and then if they win, they got to beat Rosangela's. And Rosangela's, they do these pizza contests. If Rosangela's doesn't win, it's in the Final Four every year. So that would be a tough beat.
True.
Is the way I see it. Here's the thing I worry about: the 14 seed, Golden Griddle.
Golden Griddle.
It's the only breakfast place.
Chai Tung's got them all day.
Watch them push through.
No.
They're my upset special.
I'm going to make a bold statement right here.
What?
Chai Tung to the end.
No way.
take Chai Tung to win.
Chai Tung to the end.
I'm going to take Chai Tung to win.
Wow.
Mike, who do you got?
Place it down.
Who do you got to the end?
I mean, I'm selfishly going to pick my favorite pizza place in the world and go with Los Angeles. I mean, there's no doubt about that.
I am both pizza places at the end. I'm not going to pick something.
Well, which you can't pick? Oh, yeah.
I will tell you the thing that I'm most interested in is Porter Cullen's versus Wojo's, Pappy's versus Tavern in the Green.
That's going to be a good one.
If we get similar places in the next round going against each other just to get to the Final Four, that's a bloodbath. Right there. And that'll be interesting to watch as well. Anyway, the Battle of Evergreen Park will be up and voting will begin next week. 1 week from today, there will be a new episode of the EP podcast. We'll hype it up a little bit more. We're going to try to interview some of the people that are going to be in it. And then we are going to launch this thing and we're going to vote through August. It'll be done before the month is over. And we're going to see who's the king or the queen or the champion, whatever you want to call them, of Evergreen Park in the Battle of Evergreen Park. It's now time for your EP podcast, Word on the Street, brought to you by Spoke and Vine, the brand new wine bar and bottle shop, northeast corner of 95th and Kedzie. 21 and over, and they are firm on that. Incredible menu, the food is really good, and a wide selection of wines. Taste them or get a big old glass, sit back, and have some fun with your friends. See more at spokeandvinewines.com. The Evergreen Park Senior Citizens Council and the Office of Citizen Services presents Memories to Go, the village-wide garage sale, rain or shine, on Saturday, September the 9th, 9 a.m. until 2 p.m. Why am I mentioning it now? Because it's time to get in there. The day this episode comes out is the deadline day for early sign-up and repeat customers to get a discount. It's going to be out at Yukich Field. You can reserve a 10x10 spot inside the ice rink or outside. Bring out your wares and sell them to the village. Get over to the village website for more information. The Evergreen Park Rec Department has extended the Fall Soccer League registration date to August the 5th. It is open to players ages 4 to 14. There are also indoor cycling classes starting on the 14th of August and yoga classes starting this month. Meanwhile, the youth department is having a grandparents and grandkids day in the youth garden on August 22nd. Garden for fun, have a craft, a snack, and story time. Any questions, 708-229-3377. This Friday, August the 4th at 6 p.m. at James J. Sexton Park, formerly known as 50 Acre Park, 91st and Rockwell, a free summer concert with the Smiley Tillmon Band. And that brings us our final guest of the episode, brought to you by SidSauce.net. The peppers grown here on the south side, bottled, developed right here in Evergreen Park, and delivered to your door, the only place I get my hot sauce from. See everything they have to offer at SidSauce.net. EP Podcast joined on the line right now by Tom Rosetko. He is one of the founding members of the Smiley Tillmon Band, which is going to be performing at 50 Acre Park right here in the EP. Tom, how are you?
I'm doing great, Chris. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. I appreciate you calling in. Now, you've been with this band and you co-founded it for over a decade. First of all, how did this come about? How did you get involved with Smiley? And how does he keep going at this age and playing all these shows? Because I looked on your website. You guys are busy.
Yeah, we do keep rather busy. He's able to do it just for his pure love of it, and it's really what's keeping him going. You know, when you get to an older age, sometimes you want to kind of try to avoid, just sitting around. Just what happens to a lot of older people, they end up just sitting around, and a lot of times they end up just going either sitting around or going to the doctor. Smiley loves to play. Our band, the Smiley Tillmon Band, does over 100 shows a year. So it's quite a bit of playing, but the nice thing is we've had some success So, and we've been at it for a long time. So when we get nicer things, nicer opportunities, such as the job at 50 Acre Park in Evergreen, by all means, that's why we do this, and that's why we put the effort in.
What do people expect when they come out there? I'm assuming they can bring the kids. This is going to be fun.
Absolutely. It's definitely a family-friendly show. One thing about Smiley is not only does he play, but he's very funny, too. He's very, very engaging with the crowd. He brings a performance like ours kind of back to an older time where the front man, was actually a front man, and he was, engaging with the crowd, telling some jokes, just, setting up the music a little bit more. And there's also, he does reference quite a bit of history of Chicago blues. As through that 60 years he was playing, he played with quite a few luminaries in the Chicago area. He used to play with Buddy Guy, Junior Wells, and Smiley also has a somewhat of a jazz background too. While we're primarily a blues band, we do throw some elements of jazz into the performance, as well as some soul and music in the vein of Motown and Stax. So it's a nice show. It really does have something for everybody. Our crowd is pretty unique, as we attract a lot of young people, but we attract a lot of middle-aged people also, and they absolutely love it.
Sounds like a great show. Smiley Tillmon Band this Friday, 6 p.m. at James J. Sexton Park, 91st and Rockwell. Start pouring over your Battle of Evergreen Park brackets. Who's going to win? Voting starts in a week with the opening rounds. Don't miss a thing. Make sure you are subscribed to this show anywhere podcasts can be found, and always at theeppodcast.com.
It's the EP Podcast. All things Evergreen Park. It's the EP Podcast. Evergreen Park.